Hey guys, and welcome to our 2023 Water Safety Workshop. I am Yo Armandaris, and before I get started, let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. You're streaming live into a few groups. Wherever you're watching this, if you type in the chat, I can actually see your comment. I won't be able to see you, but I can definitely see your comment. So if you can hear me and you can see me, let me know by saying hello in the comments right below this. Now, this is going to be recorded, so you can always watch it a little bit later. And should he be here, just making sure I am live. Yeah, I will be here for about, I'm going to try to wrap this up in less than 1 hour, but it's all about water safety as summer approaches. It's getting warm, it's getting hot, and we're going to give you some tips to either positively expose your dog to water activities or just the water, or just a really cool way to keep your dog cooled off as the heat starts to approach. I live here in Sunset Beach, so I see a lot of people bringing their dogs over to the beach, and in the middle of the day when it's warm outside, when the sand is hot. So I've seen my share of what not to do. And I just want to kind of go over in this workshop, what are some things to think about. Hopefully you come away with one thing that you've learned at least. But I can hear you. I can't hear you, but I can see your comments. So if you do type in the comments, it'll pop up on my screen. So I'm going to just double check. Yep, looks like I'm okay to go. I will also have some tips on swimming and exposure to paddleboarding and kayaking a little bit later in this workshop. But let me go ahead and pull up my screen. All right. So this little video here is just the other day up on the deck. And this is Mr. Baxter, who is approaching 20 weeks now. 20 weeks, maybe 18 weeks. He might be 17 or 18 weeks. And he went from being a little bit afraid of the water to fully going in and actually loving the pool. You're going to see a little video of how I introduced him to the water early on, before when he was still with the breeder. So you'll see that in a little bit. All right, so let's get this party started. So again, I am Yo Armandaris. I am a Karen Pryor Academy certified training partner. So a lot of times you'll see me use a clicker. You'll definitely see me using positive reinforcement training. Before I was a trainer, I was a trainer for humans. So a lot of you know that I had a fitness background, but I was also grew up as a swimmer. I did water ballet and I was a lifeguard. And one of my first jobs was teaching swimming to little children. So I was a Manhattan Beach swim instructor at about 13 years old, because I had been swimming and it was something we always did in the summer. And I taught private swimming lessons, and I taught the little, mommy and me swimming lessons where the pet parrot, the mom was inside, or mom or dad were inside the water, and they were trying to get the child to go into the water. And it was a fun experience. And a lot of the stuff that I did back then, I still do with dogs now when I'm trying to encourage the swimming. And then I grew, as I got older, I got out of swimming recreationally, and then started doing it for just for exercise, just a really good feel good thing. So I always grew up with these like massive shoulders. It was something that one of the things I was super proud of was my shoulders back then. So the water is my happy place. And now kayaking, paddleboarding, and even just hanging out in the water is what makes me feel good. And I love that both my dogs love water. And it has been, for Bentley, it was a little bit easier, but Bandit definitely has struggled a little more in finding his comfort in the water. I think it was about 7 or 8 months. When he was 7 or 8 months, he finally went from being a little bit timid about the water to being excited to go into the water. And I'll I'm going to go through kind of what I've done with him and the steps that I've taken with both my dogs. All right. So today's topics, I'm going to go over dogs and boats, which is a new little slide. We do have a client in our program whose dad is a captain. Dog's name is Sadie, a golden retriever, of course. And the goal when we were talking was to be able to bring Sadie out on the boat. They've got, he does like 2 and 3 hour, you know, work events. So the goal was to be able to bring her and some of those, and she was going to just be able to greet. So I'm going to provide some information on safety for pet parents that do have a dog that will eventually be on a boat. Besides boat dogs, we've got the benefits of swimming, risks and hazards, as well as water sports. I'm going to talk to you a little bit all about the different water sports. And then I'm going to go into teaching a positive vibe with water activities, as well as learning to swim. So I do have a full tutorial on introducing the beginning of water, pool. I think I did this pool or lake. I don't remember what I did. And then kayaking and paddleboarding. So I think I have a full lesson on that. Again, I'm going to try to wrap this up pretty quickly. If you've got any questions, just drop them right into the chat. And at the end of this presentation, I do have an announcement, basically a workshop that we're doing, and private lessons on swimming and kayaking. So that's going to be coming up later this month. So I'll tell you a little bit about that when we're done. All right, dogs and boats. So, like I said, the reason I put this in is that around here, I live across the street from a lot of people that do have their own boat. I myself, not a fan. I actually get seasick when I'm on a boat, but I can do a cruise. And one of the biggest dreams in my vision later on in life is to be able to take a 6-month cruise. And of course, be able to bring my dogs. So I'm hoping by the time I make this vision happen, that I know there's a couple ships out there that allow your dogs to cruise with you. So I am hoping by the time that I hit that time in my life where I can take a 6-month cruise, that I will be able to bring my dogs with me. So that is my dream. All right. So a little bit about some things and tips that you'll want to kind of think about. So according to Active Fisherman, which is a popular boating forum, 93% of boat owners also have a dog, which I thought was pretty high on statistics. And that means most likely, as a boat owner, that some part of you is just like, I would really love to bring my dog on the boat, right? To be a co-captain or something. So I'm sure that thought goes into a lot of their minds. So 93% of people that own a boat actually have a dog. And I thought those stats were pretty high. A few years ago, there's several stories of incidents that are usually go unreported, of injuries and accidents that do happen with people that bring their dog on a boat. So I'm going to tell you about one specific story, and then I'll kind of go over some of the tips that I just kind of wrote down here. So there was a family that reported, I think this was just a couple years ago, as it looked like a golden doodle, but it was a doodle of some kind. The dog's name was Benji. He was less than a year old, and it was a family with at least 2 kids, and the daughter was holding on to Benji and the son was up front. I'm assuming with the dad, didn't really say, but and was learning how to maneuver the boat. And they were going to be pulling into the island, and for some reason they decided not to pull in, and they started to move away from the shore. They were traveling less than 10 miles per hour, and the son was making a turn. And as he turned, the daughter let go of Benji, and Benji just went right into the water, just jumped into the water. So the moment she lifted her hand, Benji jumped in the water right off the front of the boat. Everybody screamed. They were trying to get the dog to stop, but it was way too late. Dog went with the with the engine into the prop and benzene, never had a chance to actually never came back up. And for to see a family that sees that happen in front of them, and not to be responsible for it, but to just have that experience had to be devastating. And they, from that incident, they go and actually talk a little, a lot about this event and what happened and the risks and things that they would have done differently. So closely monitoring your dog when you're docking or getting near or on or away from the boat slips is really important. It's not uncommon for dogs to jump off of a boat. And that's the same for kayaks and paddleboards. I did have a husky that jumped off the kayak when she was with me because Julie was with her brother. And so she jumped off at the very end and she swam, but I couldn't keep up. So I ended up praying, not don't take off, don't take off. So boat safety is as important for dogs as well as humans. So it's important to just keep that in mind. The swells, once you're, out on the water, the swells that are all, fun and everything, it makes me seasick. Can be really stressful for dogs. They don't understand where the uneven surface is coming from. It's also dangerous because they're so much lighter than at least lighter than me. Most dogs can, be bumped off the boat very quickly, not to mention it's slippery. So all of their footing, trying to move and find a comfortable spot can be really challenging. Even if your dog is a good swimmer, it's still a good idea for them to be in a life jacket. So you see the very first thing on here I have is life jacket with a handle. So making sure that your dog is comfortable and is wearing a life jacket with a handle when on the boat is going to be like always. Because while your dog is on the boat, even if it's just 20 minutes or 30 minutes, the whole time they could be trying to find a comfortable spot and, take it all in. There's wind going on, and that time that they're on the boat they could be experiencing stress, anxiety, things like that, which also makes them fatigued. So what normally would be, oh yeah, let's go swimming, could be where all of a sudden they don't have the energy to do it. So especially if you're going in the deep or rough water, definitely always have a life jacket for your dog. Positive exposure while on land. A lot of the training that you're going to see today is mostly on land first, and then you can expose your dog to a boat and things like that. The non-slippery surface, try to find a mat or something that, like, even a towel, a beach towel, where you're able to wet it and the dog has something to like kind of grip onto so that they're not constantly slipping around. Bringing that on the boat, telling your dog, here, this is where you get to chill out and lay down, is awesome. Keep your dog safe by tethering them. So now, from that incident with the husky, I now always tether the dog to me when I'm on a kayak or paddleboard. So even if I go in, the dog is still tethered. Even if they try to swim or they want to swim, fine, but they're tethered to me. I'm not a boat expert, so I don't know if that's a safety hazard. I definitely wouldn't tie the dog to the boat, but tethering the dog to you just to ensure that you've got, it's almost like holding their leash just in case. Just be mindful, ask around and see what is safety for you. Besides tethering your dog to you, sunscreen. Some dogs do get seasick. So to prevent this, you should have your dog eat just a much smaller portion if you know that your dog's going to be on the water. And if your dog has a thick coat, sometimes people don't think that they need sunscreen, but sunscreen is actually beneficial for all dogs. Although it looks silly, this little shot of Bandit was for Canada Pooch, and they had him try on they had this like sunblock material, and they had a shirt that went on, and they had these booties and a hat. So although it looks silly, these are ways to prevent your dog from getting that, sun on them, which goes to the last thing is if you can provide your dog with some shade and fresh water while they're on the boat, that's just going to help make them feel a lot more comfortable. Here in this next thing, I have a video of Larry, whose parents do have a boat. They wanted Larry to be on a boat. And so this was our positive exposure to the boat dock. You can see here, this is the very first time that we are doing this here, and I am going really slow. So a lot of times the dogs go through like a bridge, or they look down. So you see him looking down. He's like, wow, that's a long ways down. That alone can scare a dog. So I'm going really slow, and I'm using something that he likes. I'm not luring. So I'm not putting a treat to his nose. I want him to look and feel where his feet need to go. I don't want him to just follow the food. So here I am doing the Hansel and Gretel, just putting food down on the object. And once we got through there, these two little kayaks were at the end of their dock. And I started doing the same thing with the kayaks. So just giving him treats. You'll see that the kayak wobbles a little bit, which is kind of what this dock was doing with the water moving. It feels like you're moving. So he got really comfortable on these kayaks, and eventually, started sitting, and then, it's really funny now, every time I go there and he's near the kayaks, he actually like jumps in because he's had that first experience. This was done before he was 16 weeks old. So I like to do this pretty early on as one of the experiences that we go through. Now here he stopped moving and he started heading back. So it could be the site. There was two boats here. One was bigger than the other. So I gave him some, I realized if you look at his mouth, he looks a little stressed out. He's panting. So I got down and I changed what I was doing. Instead of walking, I'm basically asking, can we just sit here for a second? Can we overlook this water? Water's kind of creepy for dogs, and the boats and the things that are moving. So we took it slow. I'm using motivation of food. He is a foodie. So I'm using the motivation of something that he likes to help change the way he feels about this experience. So doing a lot of verbal praise and petting. So my goal here in this little training session was just to ensure that he had a positive exposure to the boat dock, to this walkway that they were going to have to bring the dog to in order to get on the boat. A lot of repetitions of just having this one experience without the boat is what I'd recommend. Go slow, be patient, use something that your dog loves, 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 and short sessions. So anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes, keep it short and sweet. And then repeat it every couple of days. So if this is important to you, then you'll want to repeat this every couple of days. Now, this is creating a positive exposure. He isn't fearful, but if your dog has had a bad experience on the boat, then that's a totally different training plan. It looks similar, but this was our experience with a puppy. All right. Moving on to life vests. You're going to hear us talk a lot about the life jackets, the life vests for dogs. And not all life vests are made equally. So just going to go over really quickly some of the things that you can keep in mind. So even if we're doing adventures like you have a pool and you've got friends over, so maybe you're having a kids pool party, having your dog in a life vest while you're outside would be a really good idea, just in case they do fall in. Whether it's swimming for the first time, or you do want to be able to go on a boat or on the lake, the beach. So anything to do with water or near water, there are many, many reasons to make sure that your dog's comfortable in the life vest. So I like to ask our clients to find a life jacket that's got a handle on it, especially the bigger dogs. Especially if you're going to do kayaking. I mean, I had Bentley, likes to go in and go swimming, but then when to put him back in, that handle really makes it a lot easier. swimming lessons for the very first time, it's easier if you've got a handle so that you can, because your dog will scratch the crap out of you when they first start swimming. Accidents happen, so they might scratch you. So having a little bit of way to steer them towards the step would be really important. It also can keep the smaller dogs warm. So the water sometimes is not as warm as we'd like, and it helps you to spot them. So here in this video, here's how to put on a life vest, or a positive exposure to putting on a life vest. So here I am just showing the sight of the life vest. And if Larry looks at it, I'm marking and rewarding. I'm moving pretty fast, but I'm gradually moving to the point where it's just on him. So I had done this several times with the harness. Once the dog's comfortable with having it on their back, you can keep them busy by throwing some food onto the ground while you put the life vest on. So just like we do with a harness, we want to go really slow with putting on a life vest to make sure they have a positive experience with this. So again, we do this really when they're young. So here I am. I'm keeping his mouth busy. I threw some food on the floor as we go to the buckle. Now, once you've gone to the point where you've got the life vest on, don't just put your dog in the water. We want them to be comfortable in the life vest. Now, later on, you're going to see a video of us doing the same thing for paddleboarding and kayaking. So again, we start to do the life vest before we actually have the dog on the kayak. So once your dog is in their life jacket, do something fun. You can ask them to do some tricks. You can take them on a little walk. We just want them to be comfortable in that vest before you actually put them in the water. Again, these are quick videos. Now, positive exposure to water. So I showed you that video at the very beginning of Baxter, and he was in the water, just laying there cooling off because it got warm the last couple days here. And so this is Baxter at 6 or 7 weeks. This is his whole litter. And so the breeder, we put balls inside of a pool with no water in it. But I'm showing you the process. We started with, can you get into the pool? And we brought treats. We used the ball, so it's unstable surface. And this was the beginning introduction of going into a pool. You can see the puppy's kibble is in there, and we put the balls in there. And this is not only adorable and cute, it is also a good exposure for surfaces and using their nose, all of it, right? So this was their first experience. I think they were 6 weeks, maybe 7 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks. And this is how it started. So ball pit, pool, small pool, you can use a box, you can use a bucket, but anything that gets them to, you can use a cookie sheet even, but something where they're willing to go in it or on it. Okay, let me fast forward a little bit. So fast forward that, we've got the same idea, concept of a kiddie pool, but there's a little bit of water on the bottom. Just a tiny bit. So the dogs aren't submerged in it, but their paws are touching a wet surface. Now, if your dog is hesitant about that, then just fill up parts of the water. So you see that part of it is dry and the other part is full. So here you have Lucy's first few experiences of going into a pool. I also wet the grass that you see here on the deck. So sometimes just the wet surface in your backyard, or like I said, cookie sheets or things like that. Those are the very beginning introduction of exposure to water. Later on in our pool video, you're going to see that I wet the deck, I wet the grass, I wet the area by the pool. So wet paws is the next step. After wet paws, then you can go into a little bit deeper water and you can begin to gradually fill this pool up a little bit more at a time. So there's wet grass and pool. So here I go into next. So I think the water is filled up a little higher here. Just fast forwarding this video. Sometimes bringing friends over. So if your dog loves to play, then having another dog come over and play, sometimes that alone can help. So that's what I use Bandit for. Bandit is willing to go in there. Here I am spraying the surface, first getting all of the equipment all wet. So these are all different ways to expose your dog positively to water. I'll try not to spray your dog for the very first time, but there are some dogs. So we have Lucy here who came into the sprinkler and then started actually playing with the water. And now Lucy actually loves when her mom does this. So here's just spraying the surface. So again, so then the dogs begin to play with each other and the water is there. So I'm just going to fast forward this. And here they are playing, going into the tunnel. The water is not really a significant part of their training, but they're exposed to it positively with either food, play, toys, or just the ability to play with their pals. All right. So that's positive exposure to water. Water first before you expect your dog to swim in water or go kayaking or paddleboarding and things like that. So benefits of swimming. So a lot of people go, well, I really don't have a pool. I don't really think I'm going to ever do that. But you never know. So there are a lot of benefits to teaching your dog to swim. And I didn't really think of it when Bentley was a puppy, but I mean, I did know that I wanted him to go with me to the beach. So I did do some less, taught him how to swim early on. But now Bentley is 9 years old and I'm seeing a lot of benefits of swimming. So for puppies, the more safe and positive exposure puppies have, the more resilient they become in variable environments. So when you do have it rain outside, they're not going to freak out because the grass is wet. A lot of young puppies are not fully vaccinated, obviously. So you've got, a good 1 to 2 months where you're trying to have activities to do with your dog. So swimming lesson is a great way to get them exercise safely and fun, especially in the summer heat, like when it's really warm outside. And if you can potentially make these experiences fun, they'll incorporate, you can incorporate swimming and experiences with water to be a lot more fun. Your dog's growth plates fully close, around 18 to 24 months. So again, being able to swim for exercise is a lot safer than running or jumping, which can cause could possibly cause permanent long-term damage. For adolescent dogs, you'll probably agree that sometimes their training regresses a few steps. So you'll see sometimes dogs are not recalling the way that they used to, or they're not listening. I hear the word stubborn quite a bit, right? But it's just, they're going through a stage. So when your dog is in that adolescent stage, it can lead to jumping, barking, pulling, and often just overexcited, overstimulated behaviors. And it's hard. So finding an outlet like swimming will give them mental enrichment because they're learning something new. They're learning how to, channel their energy into something that's different. So it's a more mental, and it's just a good way to alternative to walking. A lot of people think that walking is everything. Now, for senior dogs like Bentley, it can be a therapeutic way. Bentley had an injury, and I still wanted him to get exercise, but he didn't want to walk. So water always makes the body feel feels better for him. It reduced a lot of the pain. I noticed that when I started adding more swimming lessons, he seemed to move better on his walk. If your dog does get injured later on, water therapy is also, one of a good way to rehabilitate your dog back to a state of where they're able to get back to where they were before. So whether your dog is experienced or a first timer, you should always keep safety in mind. You'll see that these dogs do have a life vest on. Now, sometimes we just don't have a life vest, but our dogs that do know how to swim will have them go in. But we do make sure, you just want to make sure you keep an eye on them while they're swimming. All right, so there's just a little slide on puppies, adolescents, and seniors, the benefits, and I kind of touched through all of that. For all stages of dogs, the summer heat or the cold winter, when the weather is just not ideal, swimming can be a great way to exercise them again, mentally and physically. So there you have it. So, along with the benefits are the risks and hazards of swimming. And we've seen and we've heard a lot, and I'm sure that you have too. If you have had an experience yourself, drop it in the comments, share wherever you're watching this video. I'd love to hear about an incident where there was a risk from swimming. A lot of people don't realize this, but a lot of dogs do not know how to swim. So don't assume that your dog can swim. And that's a misconception that dogs were just born, they know how to swim automatically. In fact, someone just said that to me yesterday. They said, don't all dogs know how to swim? I'm like, no, not really. They don't understand. I mean, their instincts will kick in, but especially the dogs with a shorter snout are going to have more challenges with swimming. So just because they can doggy paddle doesn't mean they're going to be strong enough to navigate through in a pool or navigate from one end to the other. So even if you feel like they could possibly do it, you've seen them do, you still want to take things really slow. Work in small sessions. Make sure that your dog has plenty of fresh water. Don't assume that they have the strength and endurance to go a long distance of swimming. And don't over expect, like don't have a fixed thing of what you imagine their swimming lessons going to be the very first time. Just kind of go with it. Life vests make your dog more buoyant. So it's, they're going to have an easier time swimming if they have a life vest on. Be cautious of the quality of water. Different kinds of water can have varying effects on the dog's stomach and skin. So chlorine versus lake water. Saltwater pools can cause diarrhea and chlorine actually, and lethargia when ingested. So if you see that your dog's intaking water, I have a video a little bit later, you'll see, I think it's that's Finn drinking water, and then we put a water bowl in the pool so he can drink water from there. Sometimes the lakes will have things in the water that can cause your dog's system to so just keep an eye on their poop after they go swimming. Some places to get into the water, like you saw when we were getting on the boat, those ramps and ledges and stairs can be slippery, and they're not necessarily made for dogs. So just be mindful when you're trying to get your dog to follow you. Definitely keep them on leash and let your dog set the pace. Teach your dog how to get in and out of that specific whatever you're bringing them into. You'll see in our swimming lesson, we have a very distinctive place that we're telling the dog, this is where you're going to get out of. So for stairs in a pool, this is the place you get out. If you're at the beach, you're having your dog understand where they can to get out. Fence off or cover your pool to avoid your dog falling in. So if you've got a pool in your yard, in your backyard, if you're lucky enough to have a pool in your backyard, you want to make sure that your dog doesn't accidentally fall in, especially if you want your dog to love swimming, and especially if you don't want your dog to have a bad experience. And I'm sure there's stats on there of things that have happened for sure. But exhaustion, dehydration, never just leave your dog out there to go swimming on their own. If you are doing a swimming lesson, keep it short and sweet, plenty of breaks, and never force or push your dog into it. Read their body language so that you can make sure that your dog is not feeling overly anxious, nervous, or even fearful. Water sports, I'm going to go really quickly on this one. There's a ton of water sports that you can introduce with your dog too. So you have water retrieval. You've got what I do with Bentley is when I say you're allowed to go in the water is when I first start to toss a ball into the water. You've got rescue towing where the dogs learn how to take a what's it called? A floating device and bring it to shore. Kayaking, canoeing, all of those are great ways to have some fun with your dog, especially over the summer. Dock diving, I love this sport, but there's just no way neither one of my dogs are gonna do it. Um, I I'm trying to get Bandit to jump in, but it is some dogs just do it. They'll jump in, right? Like that dog that jumped off the end of the boat. There's some dogs that have no fear, and then there's some dogs that are a little more cautious. Stand up paddleboarding, a lot easier with a smaller dog, I must say, but you can do it with any dog. Any dog that can sit and settle and relax. But I did paddleboard with 3 dogs on my paddleboard. I think I was with Laura Nativo. I think she had 2 or 3 dogs, and it was not easy. But as long as they're chilling out and relaxing, so that's the position we want them to be in, it's fairly easy to do especially if you're a strong paddleboarder. I prefer kayaking now because it's a little less likely that I'm going to fall in, but I have gone over on a kayak as well. And then you have surfing. So in Huntington Beach, there is a dog surf contest. I'm not sure if it's gone on it did have it last year, but it's where your dog learns how to get on a board. You help them get on the board, and then you basically push them, and they're able to stay on the board as the surf takes them all the way back into shore. And what a fun sport to watch for the dogs that absolutely love it. I love watching the surfers out here surf with their dog on the end of the board. I think it's just amazing, but go slow, right? All right. So teaching a positive vibe with water activities is next. So we'll talk about field trips and exposure to body water, wet wash, obstacle water courses, and kiddie pools. And then I'm going to go over just swimming lesson next. So every experience near the water needs to be positive to make sure that your dog's okay with it. The sound, the sight, I was going to say the taste, but everything to do with water should be positive. Bringing another dog pal that loves to swim can really help motivate your dog to get in the water or near the water. If your dog doesn't like water on their paws, then that's the step that you're in. But using a clean body of water without waves and without the loud sound or just too many people or dogs, you want to start off with bringing your dog's favorite toys and their treats and just having a fun time around water. All right. I think I did. Well, I'm going to show you a video on positive exposure in a little bit. I did show you that little one with the puppies. So learning to swim. So the ocean versus the pool, right? So which one do you think is easier for your dog to swim in, to learn to swim for the very first time? It's a good question. It really depends. Every dog's going to be different. I find that because I usually will take a dog to the ocean here where I live, there's waves crashing, that the sound really bothers some dogs. And so I don't end up actually being near the water right off the bat. It takes the sound, first get through the sound of the ocean. I myself don't like lakes. I don't trust them 100%. So when I'm doing swimming lessons, it's usually on a water, either a pool or I use the ocean, but I find where the water's not have crashing waves. I have done a swimming lesson like at Rosie's Beach and things like that, but the struggle with that is that it's not fenced in. And I don't like to restrict the dog. I don't want the dog to feel like they're being forced to take it. But a lot of our pet parents do teach their dog to swim in the ocean, so starting with a body of water like that. So again, here we are in Tahoe, and the dog has their life vest on and they're near the water. We already did sound and stuff. The water's coming in and crashing. And this has to be one of the first steps before expecting your dog to actually go in. They have to basically feel like it's not that big of a deal. So here we're using a bowl to feed the dog while their paws are in the water. They're looking at the water, their paws are in the water, they're rewarding out of the water, and then they have the choice to come back in. We want the dog to move towards the reinforcement rather than the dog being put there. So ideally, if you want your dogs to love to swim, we're going to take it really slow and we're going to let them have the choice. Now, when you're teaching kayaking and paddleboarding and things like that, what we're doing here, she's holding onto the handle because we gradually pick up with the dog with this handle so that we can teach the dog to feel comfortable when we're assisting them, whether it's in the water or when we're putting them into the kayak. Treat placement is really important. So as they get more comfortable with this, you can gradually move the bowl further and further into the water. So here we have Bentley swimming in the pool and in the ocean. He likes the ocean. He likes to go in when the water is really calm. He also loves the pool now because we have more ability to do the pool than we do the ocean. Even though I live on the beach, the waves are pretty big there. So he doesn't go swimming like you saw here in this video. This was in Tahoe and the water's kind of flat. All right. So for positive exposure to a pool, you want to start by showing your dog how to enter and exit the pool. So here this is Finn, and his mama is in the water and he's already got his life vest on. So we've already done the positive exposure with the vest. And Lisette is in the water and she is just rewarding him. He's another foodie. This is Larry's sibling, actually. So she's feeding him while she's in the water. Now, I told her to start picking up your pace and running from one end to the other. And the reason is I wanted her to kind of splash a little bit. So here we are playing with a toy. So besides food, you can always use something your dog loves that if it's a toy. So we were playing with the tennis ball near the water. You can see that the surface is wet and then whoops, the ball accidentally rolls into the water. Dog goes after it and goes, well, I do want that. So this is his first sign of, well, let me go test it out. But he got scared. So she brought the ball out of the water and then gave him another chance. So every time he pushed the ball in the water, we were making a big hurrah, good job, and all of that stuff. So this is Finn, his first exposure to the pool. We're playing near the water. If you take your dog a bath in your bathroom, this is kind of the same kind of stuff we do here. So see that towel there? That is the spot, the place, the target that we want for him to have a positive experience with. This is the step where he'll be able to get out. So here she's using a bowl with food in it, and she's giving him a treat for coming near the water. So his paw goes into the water. She gives him a treat. So we showed him where to exit. Now she's really motivating. Come on, Finn, come in the water. Come to mama, right? That's what another dog, if you have two dogs and one's already in the water, typically this is kind of what it looks like. Now, once they're in the water, she's going to use oh, this is where he was drinking water. So we gave him some water. If they do go in the water, you want to make sure that they always get out at that same spot, especially if that's where I call it the step. So I just cue it as step to let the dogs know that this is where they're going to exit. This is where all the good things happen. So swimming ends up being really fun, but when they come out, they're going to come out to that step, and that's where you can reward as well. So here she's going back to playing again with the ball near the water. This is what a swimming lesson looks like with us, just a positive exposure to the pool. And whoops, the ball fell in. Fast forward a little bit. So again, going back to feeding near the water, for being brave. Same thing that we did at the ocean one that you saw in Tahoe. Now he's got his paws in the water. He's got his two back paws in the water, and I'm feeding him out of a bowl. And I've got the bowl in place with one hand, and then I'm putting one treat at a time into the bowl. So now we're building some duration with paws in the water. From here, we gradually get to more, to 3 paws. And now he has actually got 4 paws in the water. This is just one way. There's lots of different ways to teach swimming, but this is like one of the ways we can teach a dog to love. They wanted him to love swimming because the family likes to hang out in their backyard. Obviously, it's a gorgeous backyard, and they've got kids. So now, fast forward, Finn is a big time swimmer. So after 4 paws, obviously this is done through many days, weeks, months, not something you can do all in one lesson, although some dogs do. We build duration there with 4 paws in, teaching them to go in and out at a specific spot. And this is about as far as most dogs will get. We just want them to know how to get out and that water is not that scary. If you continue to do short repetitions like this one, your dog will eventually love, or could love, or at least tolerate the water. If they do fall in, you want them to know exactly where to go to get out. All right. Next, kayaking and paddleboarding with your dog. Now, this is fun. If you already know how to kayak and you're a strong kayaker or paddleboarder, this is not something that you want to do with your dog. If you've never kayaked and paddleboard, you want to first tackle that on your own, on your skills, then add your dog to the mix. I think I'm going to finish in time. So positive exposure to the kayak, like you saw earlier, right? To make sure this is Mr. Bandit when he was a puppy. Positive exposure to the prop that you want your dog to hang on. Same with the life vest. Getting on the kayak or paddleboard on land first, then making sure that they have a position that you want them to hang in. And then in case your dog does fall into the water, they should be tethered to you so that you can bring them back in. All right. So here is a full lesson from the very beginning. This is Lauren and her dog. I forgot what her dog's name is, but super cute. From the moment she got out of the car, she was making sure that she had a positive experience. So this is over at our paddleboarding partner over here at OC Paddleboards. They're in Sunset Beach. This is AJ, really long time good friend, awesome guy, and positive. Everybody's just happy, helping out. This is a live lesson with her and her dog. Now, even though there's jumping going on and excitement, we are not trying to take that away from the experience. We just want it to be fun and positive. So if that's what this dog wants to do is jump, that's fine. So here we are, exposure to the paddleboard. We're going pretty quick here. She's placing treats on the paddleboard. She actually started this in home. So she brought a paddleboard into her living room and started there where the dog's already safe and comfortable. We are out here on PCH. You can see the cars passing by. So she does have that leash tethered to her. Next thing is to make sure that the dog's comfortable with the life vest. So she's exposing the life vest, showing the life vest, and then offering some treats. So we need to get that dog's head through the life vest. So she's using how we use with harness to expose the dog to harness, a little method that we do. She placed the treats on the paddleboard in this case. And while the dog is busy chomping and finding her food, she is busy putting on that harness. You do want to make sure the harness fits properly so that if they do end up in the water, it's not something that they could take off easily. So here she is with the harness on, and I'm asking Lauren to go ahead and let's give her a position. So this is the middle position, peekaboo, because she's going to be learning to paddleboard with her dog. We want her dog to be on the paddleboard facing the same direction and really still. So middle position in a sit or down. And now these two do a lot together. They skate, they paddleboard. All right, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. So she's still practicing the position. Once your dog is comfortable on the paddleboard or on the kayak, either one, this is a paddleboarding one, the next thing is that your dog is comfortable with the water and with being on the prop and in water. So you see that Lauren is not in the water. I'm sorry, not on the paddleboard, but she's in the water. And that's all that this is usually about as far as we get with kayaking and paddleboard for the very first time, is the dog is on the prop and you're safely moving the object around as they float in the water. Making sure that this is a positive experience. Look at your dog's body language. How are they feeling? Is their tail wagging? Are they excited for the next thing? From that point, then it's making sure they're comfortable with the handle and the movement of the handle, not going too far. All of that done very slowly. Just going to fast forward here. So she did eventually get up onto the paddleboard. I think that's Brianna kayaking. Yep. There you go. So that is a very quick lesson on paddleboarding and kayaking, just making sure the dog feels comfortable. Both dogs are in a life vest. Oh, I did go. I was like, I thought I was there. There's Bentley hanging out with me while I'm recording. All right. So that is the end of that. And I have two upcoming classes. So we've got Kayak with Your Dog workshop on July 28th from 10 to 11:30. This is available for current students, dogs that are comfortable with us. So not a dog that is struggling with reactivity. You're going to go through those intro steps. So being on the beach, being in the sand, just exposure to this new prop. Even if you never get on the water, we want you to have that experience. If you've got a young puppy and you've never done this before, again, even if you never plan on getting on a kayak yourself, this is a great experience for them. So that is going to be the last Friday of the month. We had this all year. Last year, we had it for about 3 months every Friday. So we're bringing it back. So we're going to do 2 Learn to Kayak with Your Dog workshops, and then we'll have our Friday. It's called the Tour of Huntington kayaking. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions about that, just text Julie or myself and we can give you some more information. The other thing we're going to do a week from today is a private swimming lesson on July 19th. That's from 10 to 1 o'clock. It's a 45-minute lesson at a pool. Thank you, Joe and Diane, for letting us use your pool. But anyone that's a current student that wants to get a private session with Julie and myself, both of us will be there. We will make sure that your dog is in a safe environment, and then we'll go really slow with you. We'll be able to troubleshoot. So if you'd like to have a timed spot for that, just reach out to us and we'll tell you what time slots we have left. All right. So that's next Wednesday from 10 to 1. If you have a pool at home and you want to ask us to come over and do a private lesson with you, you're welcome to book a call with us. And the number is right there. You can call us, you can text us, you can email us, but that's the phone number to actually get a live operator that'll schedule a call with Julie or myself. All right. So that was it. Under an hour with 4 minutes to spare. If you have any questions or if this was helpful, drop it in the comments. I know that a lot of you guys are gone during the day, so you might not watch this till later on, but that's totally okay. There is a link on YouTube where we're watching this, that we do have this on YouTube. So feel free to share this with anyone that's got a dog and you want to just get some tips on water safety. Hopefully you've learned something brand new. A lot of it is repetitive. A lot of it might be common sense, but we like to do a workshop like this at least once a year, especially when it starts to get warm here, so that we don't ever have any of our students or pets or dogs end up having any kind of accident, especially if you've got a pool. So if you dream of taking your dog kayaking or paddleboarding or swimming, reach out to us. We can help you make that dream come true and at least get you that first step of making sure it's a positive experience for your dog. I'm Yo. This was really fun to do. I always like bringing this masterclass into our community. Feel free to reach out to myself or Julie, send us a message, and comment wherever you're watching this lesson. So I've got a couple questions here that I'll answer live. Let me pull that up. Oh, yeah. Do you have a preference or brand of Life Vest for first timers? I do have a preference. I like Canada Pooch, but you'll see in that video, the red and blue one where Finn was it's a zipper, and that made it really hard to put on. The other one I picked up at a pet store, and I don't know what the name of the brand is. Rough Wear is one of my favorite ones. So Canada Pooch, Rough Wear. If your dog is done growing. If they're not done growing, then I'll drop some other Life Vests that I've recommended that I've seen myself. But I noticed that the puppies grow so fast that the Life Vests, like, they keep going from one to the other. Now we have, if you're with us and we're doing a swim lesson, we have every single size. So we'll bring all of the Life Vests with us for our lesson. And then just in case the one that you have might be too big. And it looks like we've got Amber. Yep. Swimming lesson with Stash. And I think Sasha's going to have a swimming lesson as well. So that's good. All right, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day and looking forward to seeing some of you next week and the rest of at the end of the month. Let us know if this was helpful and share any pictures or videos of your dog swimming, or if your dog loves to swim, I'd love to see you post it in our group. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now.